You turn a tap, clean water, instantly, endlessly. For 300,000 years, water was the thing most likely to kill you slowly, not thirst, the water itself. So how did your ancestors find water they could drink, in a world where the wrong stream meant a death sentence? To understand this, we have to go back almost 2 million years, back to the moment one of your earliest ancestors crouched at the edge of a river, throat burning, and faced the oldest gamble alive: drink or die. But drink the wrong water, and you die anyway, slower and far worse. Picture that river now. The surface is bright. It moves clean and cold over the stones. It looks like the safest thing in the world. It isn't. It's crowded with life you cannot see: amoebae, bacteria, worm eggs, waiting for a host. One swallow can plant a parasite that lives in your gut for years, draining you from the inside. Others hit in hours: cramps, fever, the kind of sickness that empties your body of the very water you just risked everything to drink. A single bad drink could bring down the strongest hunter in the group, not in a fight, not under a predator, killed by something far too small to see. That is dysentery, and for most of human history, it was one of the deadliest things you could catch. We know these parasites haunted your ancestors because we can still find them. Paleoparasitologists study coprolites, fossilized human waste, and inside they have recovered the preserved eggs of intestinal worms tens of thousands of years old. The threat was not rare, it was constant. And here is what that means for you. Every instinct you have about clean water, the way you trust a clear mountain stream and recoil from a stagnant pond, was carved into your species by ancestors who guessed wrong and did not come back. But your ancestors were not helpless. They learned to read the land like a map with water hidden inside it. They watched the animals. Grazing herds drink at dawn and dusk, and they know the way. Follow the tracks that all bend in one direction, and they will bend toward water. They watched the birds. Many seed-eating birds fly low and straight toward water at the end of the day. They watched the ground itself. A line of brighter green cutting through dry country means moisture under the roots. Certain trees only grow where water sits close to the surface. Even insects talk. Bees rarely travel far from water, and a swarm can point the way. In the driest country, your ancestors watched the biggest animals of all. Elephants can smell water buried deep beneath a dry riverbed, and they dig for it with tusks and feet. Where the giants dug their wells, people drank after them. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer groups, like the San of the Kalahari, have recorded exactly this kind of layered, life-saving landscape knowledge, passed down as stories and songs. And you still carry a faint echo of it. Ask people to choose a place to rest, and again they choose the view with water in it: the lake, the coast, the river bend. We call it a nice view. Your ancestors called it survival. Finding water was only half the fight. The other half was making it safe. So they cheated the river. Instead of drinking from the open, churning current, your ancestors learned to dig a small pit, a step back from the bank, and wait. Water seeps sideways through the sand and gravel, and by the time it fills that little hollow, the soil has strained out much of the mud and some of what is living in it. It is the same principle behind the filter in your fridge today. Push water through fine grains and let the grains catch what you do not want. Around their fires, they also had charcoal, and there is good reason to think early people noticed that water sitting near ash and burnt wood tasted cleaner, sweeter, less foul. Charcoal grabs onto the compounds that make water stink, and the same black carbon still sits inside the filters people buy today. Nothing about the idea is new, only the packaging. And the simplest trick of all was patience. Let a container of cloudy water stand overnight, and the silt sinks to the bottom, leaving clearer water on top to pour off. No technology, just time, and the hard-won knowledge of which shortcuts kept you alive. But there was one kind of water your ancestors could never fix, no matter how clever they were: the sea. Stand on a coastline, and you are staring at more water than you could drink in 1,000 lifetimes, and not one drop of it is safe. Here is the cruel physics. Seawater is far saltier than your blood. When you drink it, the salt pulls water out of your own cells to try to dilute itself, and your kidneys have to spend more water flushing the salt than the seawater gave you in the first place. So you drink, and you get thirstier. Drink enough, and it kills you. Your ancestors on the coast knew the ocean fed them but could never quench them. So they hunted for freshwater springs bubbling up through the sand, some even below the tide line, reachable only at low water. They caught rain. Before dawn, they wiped the dew from leaves and cold stone with fur and wrung it into their mouths, drop by patient drop. They drank the moisture trapped in plants and the fluids of the animals they killed. They lived beside an ocean of water while chasing every hidden trickle of the fresh. And your body has not changed. Shipwreck survivors who break and drink the seawater die faster than those who drink nothing at all. The same ancient limit is written in every cell you have. And then one discovery changed the water game forever: fire. Long before your ancestors understood germs, they had a tool that killed them anyway. Heat water until it rolls and bubbles, and almost nothing living survives. At the site of Gesher Beno Yaakov, in what is now Israel, archaeologists found traces of controlled fire use dating back roughly 780,000 years, among the oldest solid evidence we have of humans mastering flame. But boiling water is harder than it sounds, because you need something to boil it in, and for most of prehistory, there were no pots. So they improvised. They lined pits and bark and animal stomachs with water, then dropped in stones heated white in the fire. The stones hissed, the water surged, and it worked. Only much later did true pottery appear. At Xinrendong Cave in China, fragments of cooking pots have been dated to around 20,000 years ago, near the depths of the last ice age. And boiling did more than clean. It softened tough roots, drew fat and marrow out of shattered bone, and unlocked foods that had been useless before. Water and fire together stretched every meal further. Think about that the next time you boil a kettle. That short wait for bubbles is one of the oldest safety habits your species owns. Every cup of tea, every coffee is a fire and water trick 1,000 centuries old. Water did not just keep your ancestors alive, it decided where they were allowed to go. Every migration, every long walk into an unknown land was really a chain of water points strung across the map. Miss one, misjudge the distance to the next, and the whole group died between them. Water holes became the beating hearts of the ancient world. In the dry season, when the small pools shrank and vanished, every living thing was squeezed toward the few that were left, and your ancestors timed their whole year around it. Life gathered there. So did death, because every predator knew it too, and the same spring that saved you might hide the thing that hunted you. To cross the dry gaps, your ancestors carried their water. At Diepkloof Rock Shelter in South Africa, people engraved ostrich eggshells more than 60,000 years ago and used them as canteens, sealed flasks that could hold water across a punishing stretch of land. This is why, even now, our oldest cities sit on rivers and springs and lake shores. We like to think we conquered the planet. Really, we followed the water, and we never stopped. But the strangest survival tool of all was not a well, or a fire, or an eggshell. It was built into your body, and you are still running it right now. Thirst. Deep in your brain sit sensors that measure the salt in your blood with brutal precision. And the moment it drifts too high, they scream one word: drink. You obey without deciding to. That is ancient. Then there is taste. Water that has gone wrong often turns bitter, metallic, or sour, and your tongue flinches before your mind catches up, pulling the cup away. And strongest of all is disgust. The lurch in your stomach at a rotten smell, at slime, at foul standing water, is one of your oldest guardians. Researchers who study disgust argue it evolved largely as a disease avoidance system, a gut-level alarm that kept our ancestors away from the water and food most likely to be swarming with sickness. Watch a small child gag at a smell no one ever taught them to hate. That reflex is older than language, older than fire. You did not learn that revulsion. You inherited it. And that changes how you should see one small modern moment. You reach for water without a flicker of fear. You drink from a fountain, a bottle, a tap, and it never once crosses your mind that it might end you. That calm is brand new. For almost the entire human story, it did not exist. So what if that thing you feel near water, the pull toward the shoreline, the strange peace of a running stream, the way a fountain in a noisy square makes your shoulders drop, is not just taste? What if it is memory, not yours, theirs? 300,000 years of ancestors who lived and died by the water, whose relief at finding it clean still hums somewhere under your skin. Every one of them found water safe enough to raise the next generation. If even one had failed, you would not be here to feel the calm at all. Because that is the trade you inherited and never noticed. Your ancestors paid for every mouthful with vigilance. They read the sky, the tracks, the color of the grass. They dug, they waited, they boiled, they carried, they feared. And they handed down, drink by drink, the instincts that finally let you stop being afraid. We traded all of it, the watching, the knowing, the reverence, for a silver handle on a wall. And most of us never even knew there was anything to lose. So tonight, when you fill a glass without a second thought, hold it a moment before you drink. Somewhere behind you stands an unbroken line of people who would have called that glass a miracle. You are the first who gets to call it nothing at all.